Hello, this is Arthur Nix, and I've been training HeavyBid for over 25 years, and today I want to cover some steps that I would recommend that you do every year to review your master estimate. So here I am in a master estimate, and you can see it's 2025 master, and I like to name my masters. I know it comes default in HeavyBid as SMast, but I really like to name my master for the year that it's in, just kind of a best practice, and also keep the SMast as a pure blank estimate. But anyway, we go to File, and let's say this is my 25 master, and I'm going into the new year, and I want to start a 26 master, whatever year that you're going into. And so I go to New, and I copy current estimate. So I'm in my master, or I could just start another estimate too, but I'm just going to do it this way. I'm in my current master. I'm going to start a new master, and then I'm going to call this, you notice it comes up with the -1. So I'm going to come over here and just make this 2026 master. Now you get 12 characters. You can use dashes, underscore, just no spaces. I go to next. And then I'm going to make this 2026 master estimate. You can always put some kind of notes here, but they're a little bit hard to get to. I'll show you a better place to put your notes in a minute. You go to next, and you can see all it does when you do that File, New, Copy from Current is it just puts the default source estimate in there as your current estimate. Now, I want to display this estimate with the master estimate, but if you forget to check that, it's real easy to go back and check that later. And then I go to Finish. Now, this will make an exact copy of my current estimate. And you see that it's going to put me into the estimate information screen, a good screen to start off with. And here what I would like to do is any changes that I make, I'll document right here, or maybe I just want them to be at the bottom of the notes. It just kind of depends where you want. And this would be 2026 Master Estimate Updates. And then you can go down and put in your things that you have changed for this master. And you could push it down so that it doesn't really interfere with this screen, but then you could always refer to it during the year and say, okay, what changes were made in my master estimate. So some things that I recommend that you cover while you're here in this estimate information screen is make sure the default labor rules is what you want for the new year. Your overtime rule is correct. Your workers' comp is correct. Double check your taxes. If you're all the time changing these taxes, go ahead and change them one time. One thing I would point out is for outside equipment, it's probably more than your regular sales tax, because there's a lot of, if you go look at your invoices, you'll see a lot of other taxes added to it, environmental tax, things like that. So that's going to be higher than your regular sales tax. And also in your master estimate, if you are using the EOE portion of it, then you probably don't want to have sales tax applied to the EOE, because those are usually included already in the fuel and the other items. So that would apply only for the outside pieces. So I leave that checked. And then, of course, this would probably be 0%. Unless you just have standard DBE all the time, you could leave it in there, but most time that's going to be 0%. And then I'm going to come back here and save these items right here. Save that and close. All right, the next thing I would check out would be the equipment. So I come up here to Setup, and then I come into my equipment. And of course, I would come back, and if you're going to do some mass, if you really want to do, a lot of modifications, I would export this out to Excel and then import that back in. So like the rent breakdown, if I'm really going to come back and I want to maybe hand this off to somebody else, I can right click, send to Excel, and then, of course, they're going to be revising this rent period right here. Or if you're just using the basic right here, you can always just send out the rent rate, and then maybe your equipment department updates that. But anyway, I would review that first. Then I would go into my EOE breakdown, okay? And if you're using the fuel actually a fuel usage, don't forget that down here in the lower left, you might want to come and review your fuel rates and make them, something average for the year. I will tell you that a lot of people just leave this kind of on the high side. I won't say it's fluff, but it does give you a little bit of conservative values. I know people that just have $5 diesel, okay, and $4 gas. So, and that just gives them a little bit of leeway there on their fuel. So that's something I would check there, and then I would save any new rates there. All right, let's now go into setup and labor. And I would come in here and I would check my different labor rates, make sure they're current. Again, if I'm going to do some mass revisions, I'm going to send this out to Excel and bring it back in. Now, I also want to come over here to my taxes, and you can see that these are built up right here. And the reason I like to do that, it doesn't have to be that way. You can always import this in, but if you want to have a quick way to do it inside of HeavyBid, I could come down here to options, and if I have this set up as a broken down, then I could do my change taxes right here, and it does a backup, and then I can make it for certain ranges or all the ranges for the whole thing, and then I could come in and go ahead and revise it for the new year. So that's a reason I like to break this down like this. Or you just have one at the top here. You just have taxes, and you just put in your 25%. But still, you can then update it for everybody. You're not going to have to type it in all the way down. So that's something that I would do. Same thing for the fringes. If it's consistent, then you might want to have a breakdown like this. And then you could come down and go to options and then change fringes, and it would change it throughout the estimate. So that's the first thing I would do for setting up the labor. The next, what I would do is just double check, it doesn't hurt, my overtime rules. Make sure that all the overtime rules are correct. Okay, I will point out that what you should see, like you should see something like time and a half over 8. Okay, not time and a half over 40. That is incorrect in HeavyBid. Time and a half or double time on Saturday, and that should be 0 there. Maybe time and a half or double time. It kind of depends where you are. And on Sunday, and that would be 0 also. Most people don't have like double time over 10, but you might. And kind of depends on the region that you're in. So I would double check any of that. If you have the comprehensive version, you're going to have this show up right here where I have a shift differential and a bonus hour differential too for my second and third shifts. All right, so that would be the in terms of calendars and overtime, I would check that. The next thing I would do is check my calendars themselves and make sure they're correct. And what I usually look for is if it's like a 5-10 calendar, I should have 10 right here. All right, and I should have 10 for each one of those days right there. And if it's time and a half over 8, I know just because I can do the math, this should be 110% right here. Same thing for if I go to a 512, I know that's going to be 116.67% right there. Now, what happened is this 125 at one time, I probably checked that and typed in. I can do an overwrite that too, but that's why that 125 appears there. It's going to use the default overtime right there. All right, 512s, and of course, you can come down here and check the 6/12, which would be the 122.22. All right, and then that's done. What's the next thing I would check? I would come in and check my bond and make sure my bond is current for the new year. Now, I would actually go out and ask the bonding company to give me a new quote. And even if they say it hadn't changed, hey, go ahead and give me a quote anyway. I want to see it in writing to double check. And then you can go in and revise these limits right here. Don't forget, you might have two types of bonds right here. And then go ahead and set your default, which is the most common bond. Or if you don't have bonds, sometimes you have bonds, you don't have bonds, then you might consider putting in a no bond and having that available so that you know for sure, hey, we have no bond right here. So when you go to summary, you'll see no bond. All right. So those are the big things that I would check in terms of labor, equipment, and then the overtime and the overtime rules. Now, I would go ahead and check the crews. And what I would do is, kind of get everybody together on the team and say, okay, what are you changing all the time? All right. Don't have, if you think about it, if you have 3 people, 5 people, making a change to the crew every estimate, that's a lot of time wasted. So go ahead and get the changes done now. You can always, let's say the light clearing crew, sometimes you might have a track loader, sometimes you might have a wheel loader, you might have a dozer, you might have a, whatever. You can go ahead and come down here, go to options, copy to a new crew, and then make that alteration so you have both the current clearing crew and the one with the other piece of equipment or revised people or whatever. Easy to do so that, everybody is not having to revise the crew all the time. Another thing I would do is, if you never use a crew, it's just something that, was in the past and now you don't need it anymore, go ahead and delete it. Just kind of clean this up. Don't forget, you can also have headers here. So if you have a lot of crews, then I would go ahead and add headers in here so that you can divide it up into the different work packages that the crews are doing. So that's real useful. That also exists for, equipment and labor. You can have headers. I don't recommend them if, you don't have a lot of items, a lot of resources. But if you do, it does make it an easy way to organize that. So clean up your crews. And, as long as if you're only changing the pieces, then it's not going to affect your, anything that you have in your activity code book, because remember, it's only using the code. All right, let's see what's the next thing I would do. Next thing I would do would, check the workers' comp rates. I forgot about that. Go to more, and then I would come to workers' comp right here. Very important. And I would go ahead, call the insurance company or have, whoever handles that and say, look, I want to see it in writing and so that you understand all the, the nuances with the rates. So a lot of times, or sometimes these insurance companies say, well, this is the rate, but this is your discount. Well, you might, they might not tell you what the discount is. I think as an estimator, you need to see the whole thing. Now, maybe you don't take all the discount on the rates, but at least you should be aware of them. And because it makes a difference if you're doing, hard bids. And then you revise this rates for the new master. Again, if it's a lot of worker comp rates, you can export it out and then import it back in. If you're not familiar with that import-export, just call HCSS Tech Support and they will guide you through it. It's one of the easiest things that they can show you. All right, let's see what's the next thing I'm going to have. I'll probably go in, the next thing I'm going to do is go into the bid summary. that I have this set up with the right markup that I want for the year, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in my add-on so I don't have to keep doing that every time. Now, if you're not familiar with add-ons, I would encourage you to maybe consider looking at those. I think they're really useful. There's the bond again, so you can also revise the bond right here. And I would also make sure these standard spreads are correct in the way that you want them. All right. Most of the time, they're not going to be like the default total, total, total. They're going to be something like total less sub or markup percentage or something like that. Also, I would encourage you to look at the key performance indicators if you're not using those. Really easy. Now, you do have to be able to modify these. You do have to have the advanced or the comprehensive versions. You can't do it in the basic. You come down to key indicators, and to show them, you just click that box right there. Now, I'm not going to go into the setup, but you can see they're real easy to set up. And you can see that you can have things like balance markup, actual markup, actual margin. You can have all sorts of things right here that maybe you're calculating every time. So, if you're sitting there with a calculator or your phone and you're having to punch things in, put the calculation right here. It's ready to do, and it also appears on reports. So it's a great feature. All right, now system-wide, what I would do is, first of all, I would make sure that you're using tags. All right, again, advanced or comprehensive. You go to Setup, More, and Tags right here. Reason I like to do that is I can come up to, for just an example, I go to Open Estimate, and I can set, now I don't have tags set up, but I can go ahead and set up tags down here to, they're under my estimate. Oh, I do have them set up here, excuse me. And you can go ahead and filter and say, well, now I'm going to set the filter for 2026 so that I only see those estimates that I'm working in 26, so that I don't have to just, keep looking through all the estimates. I only see the ones that I'm working with. Or I see the ones in 26. I don't think I have any right now. I just say 25, and I just go ahead and click on the estimator so that I only see my estimates and then apply it. That didn't meet any of them, but you get the idea. I would see only my estimates every time. And if I do that in the master, now I wouldn't set the estimator, but I could set the year, then that's the way it would copy over already set. So tags are great. You can they are also used for estimate history, which is really useful, and you can filter on the tags. And you can see just some of the basic ones right here. We have year, estimator, work type, bid status. And then these two right here, tag 5, tag 6 are open. You got 6 different tags. Very easy to set up. So I would make sure that's set up. And the next thing I would do, going back, just stepping back for a minute, looking at, the system-wide material code book, is make sure, and this is usually happens by accident or somebody accidentally imports in the material code book, but look at your local material code book and make sure you don't have a lot of the system-wide materials in here. What happens is this controls, and if you revise your materials here, bring them into the estimate, what's going to happen? You're like, well, I know I changed the price, but they're controlled by the local. So what I recommend doing, clean this up, is come down to options, delete local material not used in the estimate. Get rid of those so that only the ones you see here are in my indirects. All right? So that would be a good check right there. All right. Let's see here. I would also be looking at the, activity code book. Hey, what activities can I add? Or maybe you're not using the activity code book. Now's the time to maybe start taking a look at that. And, it's easy to, well, it's not that easy, but it is easy to start, and then you could build upon that platform. So consider when you're revising, when you're reviewing HeavyBid, hey, take a look at the activity code book. All right, let's see, what are some other things I would do? Now, when you change this master estimate, it's real important that when you go to tools right here, preferences, and everybody would have to do this because this is a user setting, I would come to folder defaults, and then I would have to put in browse this out, and then I would have to find my 2026 master estimate, and then make that be my new path right here. Everybody would have to do that. So when you go to File, New Estimate, that is the automatic master. Unless you just want to be, you could blank it out that you have to put in each time, but I think that's kind of a waste of time. There's usually one master that is a default. So, and also, we're not going to go through all the preferences, but I would just make sure that, you have reviewed these preferences for the new year. Go through each and every one of them. Be sure if you have audit trail, okay, this is comprehensive. Do you want it always on? Do you want to have it turn it on so many days before the bid date? Personally, I would never have this option right here off because people, pretty much will not turn it on. And by the time they want it, it's no data's there because it wasn't on. So I would consider either that option or that option right there for the audit trail. Some other things I would do, I'd come and look at some of the colors and user preferences, and maybe now you might want to introduce colors in your estimate entry screen, all right, in your tree view. I would also come in and, make sure that, all these defaults are the way that you want them. And consider each and every one. And, it doesn't take you much time, maybe an hour total, to go through all the preferences here, which would be the master estimate, preferences here, which would be user, and then the system-wide preferences here. All right, and last, I would consider looking at, I would do this. I would make sure that I'm on the current or close to the current HeavyBid version, and you can check that by going to Help, About HeavyBid. You'd be surprised how many people don't know the version that they're on. And it doesn't have to be the latest, but I just recommend nothing more than a year old. All right, because when they publish these updates, they're taking care of bugs and things that you want to have corrected. So why keep using something that where there's something else that's better? So, and it's easy to update, and you just have to make sure everybody on the team is aware that there's going to be an update. Maybe they want to back up the estimate before the update's made. But check and make sure that you are close or current with the latest update. All right. Now, I would also make sure that you are using project tracking, or at least know what it is. Okay. Estimate Insights, that you know what that is. And so, just to give you an example, and a lot of companies don't know about this, is in Tree View, I can go into any of the activities, and I can actually query, and I can go look at past estimates right here, and I can say, okay, what have I costed this on past estimates? All right, so this is a great way to kind of get consistency in your bids. And if you notice, there's a production history, and that will go out and look at heavy job and say, okay, what have I done this in the past? Now, this has nothing to do really with the master estimate. All I'm saying is you're in the new year, you're starting fresh. What am I not using in the heavy bid, universe? So, and one thing I find that people aren't using is production history. It's for all three versions, so that's great. Just to give you an example here, I'm going to go to, let's see here. Let's go to this estimate right here. All right, switch the estimate, and then I'm going to go to an activity. It is activity based. Clear and grub. And then I'm going to come to here, my binoculars, and then make sure I'm on estimate history. I'm just going to say clear. And then I'm going to put in all available and kind of throw out a large net. You can kind of do a quantity variance there if you want to. Apply filters. And it's going to go out and look at all my estimates that are sinking and say, okay, what have I bid this, or what have I costed this on other estimates right there? So this is huge, huge. I don't know why companies would not have this set up, So all I'm saying is, when you're going through heavy bid and you're considering all the things that maybe you need to review, make sure you're using estimate history. All right, I think that covers all the items that I wanted to cover that I would review in a new estimate. The big thing is also, if you want training, a lot of this I could do in a 4-hour remote training with you. Just shoot me an email or give me a call, and we can talk about it. But not only will it allow me to review your system and maybe some things that you haven't seen that I can give suggestions on, but also it's a training at the same time. Setup, training, review. Just feel free to contact me if you're interested in that. All right, well, this is Arthur Nix, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, how about put a like so I kind of know if you like this video, and I appreciate you watching it.